Hello, good morning, or evening, depending on when you're watching this. I'm filming this at 3 in the morning right now because for whatever reason, I get in the mood of talking about books really late at night. But anyways, we are back here today to continue the series of what your favorite classic author says about you. If you haven't already seen it, you can go back and see part 1, which I'll have linked to this video. But I suggest you stick around here for part 2 because I took a lot of your guys' suggestions for what you wanted to see this time around. So thank you for taking the time to share your perspectives. Also, your book recommendations. I have so many now, which I'm very excited to get to, even though I probably am going to take over a year to get to them all. But now I have something to look forward to. I'd like to pose a new question this time, which is, do you think that our favorite authors tend to change as we grow older, as we go through new chapters in our lives, or do we always go back to that one special book or writer, despite how much we might change over the years? For me, I think books have a way of holding up a mirror to our own inner world. And although sometimes we have these phases of reading that reflect where we are in life, there's still that one author that stays as a favorite. It's like that immovable spot that you give to your favorite film on Letterboxd. That could just be me. But either way, let me know in the comments, and let's get into this round of classic authors. First up, we have Charlotte Bronte. If you find yourself gravitating towards her works, you might be the independent of the group. I also think she's the independent of her sisters as well, partially because she's the eldest of the group, and also since she had her works published before the others. As it's seen as her most well-known work, Jane Eyre really captures this emotional side of her independence in such a unique way, where we view this freedom as really a desire for intellectual freedom to express yourself. It's a story about self-discovery aside from any societal pressures that you might face. And I think if you find yourself having a personal connection to her work, it just shows how much you value your independence. And I think it's the type of confident autonomy that you have within yourself that lets you naturally follow your own moral compass, and you don't necessarily let the opinions of others sway you very much. And so through the eyes of Jane Eyre, you can really see this value of self-reliance really shine through. And really, it's a story about being able to hold your own in a relationship and not to lose yourself in somebody else, which is also reflective in her own life, having had rejected 6 marriage proposals in her lifetime before she married, I'm pretty sure in her late 30s. So as readers of Charlotte Bronte, you probably enjoy solitude, where others might confuse your alone time as loneliness, but you're comfortable in the independent spaces that you've created for yourself, and you kind of thrive in it. And if I were to guess, I bet you were the type of person that preferred to work alone instead of in a group setting at school. And of course, I couldn't mention Charlotte Bronte without mentioning Emily Bronte next. I'm calling this group the fiery introverts, which I took a while to come up with to sum up her personality into words, because I think it's such a mix that's pretty even between introversion and rebelliousness that she has. But I think it must have been that type of personality that came out around her family and her close friends that were really able to see the more opinionated side of her. So if you feel connected to her works, you might operate in the same way, where you almost tend to naturally hold back around people that you might not know well or feel comfortable around, but then your personality instantly is able to shine around the people that you're closest to. And the gothic nature of Wuthering Heights really captures this. It has this quiet intensity where both the main characters, Heathcliff and Catherine, have very deep emotional connections, and yet they have like this inner world of contemplation, and they both need so much isolation within themselves. And I think that's such a beautiful reminder that if you relate to her works like this one, you're probably a person that has such a deep inner world, even though the way that you show up in the world is very reserved. So not many people get to experience this side of you. But I think it could be a good thing, and it does make it a little bit more special for the people that you do let in. Next up, we have Charles Dickens, the Advocate. Most, if not all, of his works are about social injustices at the end of the day. And as a social critic, he used his writing as an entertaining, digestible way to comment on his concern of industrialization, on how the poor were treated, on how children were treated, and just overall highlighting the oppressions faced with marginalized groups. So if you feel closely tied to his stories, I would assume that you are someone who speaks up for the social rights of others and you're a proud activist, for what's morally right, even in times where you might feel that you're in the minority of thinkers. Because even back then, his concerns weren't exactly priorities in the Victorian era, where there was such a disregard for emotional and personal fulfillment, which was mostly because of industrialization and how it was such a quickly tightening suppression of the working class and its children. But I think we can say the same about today, though, where society values productivity in the workplace over a work life balance. And even the people that are self employed feel this constant need to climb up the invisible ladder in quote unquote success. And as readers of Dickens, I'd like to think that you are the ones who ground us and remind us that there's more to life than utility and productivity and physical or monetary success. Leo Tolstoy, probably the author that I had the most requests to mention in this video, but for good reason. We're going to call this group the realists because, in essence, his writing strength was mainly in his ability to vividly capture the reality of the times that he was living through. If he's your favorite author, you most likely are someone who isn't a daydreamer, who dwells on the past. You're not someone who focuses too far into the future, but instead you're someone that's probably very rooted in the present moment. I would also say that you're probably not interested in hearing when someone over embellishes their day-to-day stories, and you much rather have grounded conversations with those around you and really getting to know their real struggles and inner thoughts. I think War and Peace is a great example of that. It's definitely one of his works that shows this mentality where he isn't interested in portraying war as this big theatrical thing where there's war heroes and big battles scenes, but instead he focuses on the real experience of what war really is. And I think his characters behave in a similar way too, where a lot of other authors might focus on portraying some sort of character trope or character arc. He sticks to showing how the human experience really is. And human experiences is shifting emotions and opinions that sometimes contradict themselves because that's how people in real life are. If you're an avid reader of his works, I would guess that you're someone that sees beauty in the imperfections of life, and you'd rather surround yourself with people that are comfortable being themselves around you instead of those that are used to putting up a facade that they want to be perceived as in the world. And I have a lot of respect for you guys who are able to show up in life in your truest self, and I'm sure your truthful nature is a breath of fresh air to those that know you. Mary Shelley, the visionary. As Frankenstein being often credited as one of the first works of science fiction, she really paved the way for such a huge literary genre, and she did it at a time where being recognized as a female writer was also an added roadblock to her success. If your favorite author is Mary Shelley, I would say you are someone that is always looking to the future, and you're someone that embraces novel new ideas, and change probably excites you. I think a lot of the time the story of Frankenstein is glossed over as a simple early example of gothic horror, but in my opinion, I think it's a lot more than that. It's a very reflective story that has a lot to say about science and humanity and the moral implications that can come from balancing scientific innovation and society going too far in the name of science. And I think because of this, it makes me feel like you are more likely someone that, while yes, you have this strong visionary mindset, you don't let yourself go to the extreme. You're a careful person that cares about how those around you are affected by your actions. A moralistic pioneer of sorts. Next on our list is F. Scott Fitzgerald, who I would describe as the dreamer of the group. From The Great Gatsby to The Beautiful and the Damned. Actually, I would say all of his writing, but correct me if I'm wrong, is super idealistic. Does his work sometimes fall into disillusionment? Yes. But to the core of his stories are ones of allowing yourself to pursue something greater than you could imagine. I would easily bet that readers of Fitzgerald are big dreamers. You are the type of person whose goals are always at the forefront of your mind, and it's one of your biggest priorities to get ahead in life and make the most out of every experience and experiencing the grand parts of your life to the fullest. I picture this person as someone who takes a little bit of extra time to wander around art galleries and museums and takes a little bit longer to get ready in the morning. You probably like to sit with your meals a little longer and really enjoy them. And I could see you being somebody that carves out a whole day to spend talking to a friend with not really having a rush to be bothered by other outside responsibilities. I think this idealistic tendency is also just as equally matched with a sense of nostalgia, because there's a lot of longing in his stories about what's been lost and trying to go back to moments and trying to relive them. And this label of being a dreamer can just as easily describe how unafraid you might be to get your heart broken. Because for you, it's more about allowing yourself to experience, and that's what's important. And maybe more so, you live with a goal of telling the most interesting, most romanticized story of your life as possible that you physically can. Now let's talk about Mark Twain, the adventurer. From the adventures of Tom Sawyer to Huckleberry Finn, there's this craving of exploration and freedom that's felt from these stories, and a lot of childlike mischief. I read a lot of these as a kid, actually. The short and easy versions of them, but still. If you're a fan of Mark Twain, you're probably someone who likes going on adventures, and you're probably the type of person who would take a spontaneous road trip, or you might try to travel as much as possible. You might also be particularly drawn to nature, as a lot of the characters in his stories are, where they explore forests and caves and rivers. In a more metaphorical sense of the word, you may also be someone that takes this role of an adventurer in life, seeing it as an exciting journey full of opportunities to go on new paths and carve your own way in life. And aside from challenging the conventional ways of living like many of his characters do, at the end of the day, you guys are good at seeing the humor in everything as well, and are good at not taking everything so seriously. Next up, we have Victor Hugo. This is a copy of Les Mis, not in the translated version, but in its original language. The goal, eventually, is to be able to read it entirely in French, although that may be years from now. But I keep this one as a reminder of that. But I am very connected to the film. Anyways, I think a good fitting name for this group is the Revolutionaries, because at the core of it, I think it captures both his ideals and the concepts covered in his books, where his stories are a way to express ideas of a need for change and justice. I think you may be the type of person who stands up for the underdog in the stories that you read, in the films that you watch, and in real life. You're someone that isn't afraid to take the unpopular opinion if you believe that your beliefs are more morally right. And it's this strong moral compass that allows you to be the face of change. And just like Hugo, I feel like you're also a romantic at heart, and you're able to see the beauty through troubling times where others might find it difficult to do so. I think this group takes a very positive approach to justice in the world, where you strike a great balance between being firm in what you believe is right in society and can stand up for change, and also find beautiful moments to romanticize what you do have. And last on our list, we have Alexandre Dumas, Victor Hugo's lifelong bestie. When Hugo went into exile, if you know this, Dumas said, "They've exiled Hugo, and I'll go into exile too." And honestly, that's so fitting for him to say, and it so closely matches his title of The Vengeful. From The Three Musketeers to The Count of Monte Cristo, this idea of getting revenge is so deeply rooted in the driving force of all of his stories. If Dumas is your favorite author, I think this vengeful nature can take on a positive light in your life, where you value honesty and fairness, and you seek poetic justice for yourself and those that you care about, because it's not just about seeking fairness for the group. I think it's also about the art of doing so, which makes me assume that you might be someone that likes a little bit of drama in your life. I'm really excited to finally finish The Count of Monte Cristo. It's one of those intimidatingly long reads, but I loved the 2002 film, and I told myself that I could only watch the French 2024 film once I finished the book. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's all I have for today. I hope I covered your favorite classic author. If not in this video, hopefully in the one that I made last week, if you haven't checked that one out yet. I hope to see you guys in the comments. It's been so fun to see all of your insight and discussion that we've been having since the last video, and hopefully we can keep that going. I post every Friday, by the way, if you haven't noticed. I've been trying to be consistent with that. But the next video, I will be doing a book haul, the first on my channel. And it's one that I'm really excited about since I got like 75% off all of the books. So I went a little bit overboard with that, but I'm excited to share what I found with you guys. So that'll be next Friday. So hope to see you there. Also, I just realized that probably half of this video does not have the mic. I took it off for God knows what reason, but it's okay. Hopefully the audio is fine. If not, I'll fix it post. This is like the learning experience of having a new channel. That's the beauty of it. See, this is all real. This is not like scripted high quality anything, but it's okay. I appreciate you still being here. Anyways, I will see you in the comments and hopefully in my next video. Bye.